Hello.
Hiya. I'm
That
very
all?
sick. I'm so sick today.
Well, last week as well, it came out a day late because I was very sick.
Yes,
You was very sick. I could. Do you know what? That shows how sick I was
I
because
know.
you text me and I went, I don't even know what day. Like I was literally like, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I haven't done
I,
it. I mean,
I
it got
had
so bad.
all the fans messaging me saying, "Where's
Everybody,
this week's
where is
episode?"
I was so bad last week with regards to being sick that I was picking my best mate up. That's how bad, like with your thing. I was picking my best mate up from the airport because he was flying in from America. Just got a green card, so he's married to an American. They finally got his spousal visa, so he could leave the country, see his family, and see his family in like 2 years. And he was like, "Can you pick me up from the airport?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I went, and he was picked me up on Friday, and I like drove there, drove to the, and it was Thursday. I drove there, and then I was like, "What? What am I doing?" And then I got there and I texted him, I was like, "Where are you?" And he was like, "At home." He said, "I'm just getting ready to get on the plane." So your podcast is not the only thing that got missed.
Yeah. Millie was like, because like obviously the content that goes out, other sides of it's all planned. And Billy was like, the post didn't go out yesterday, and I've already organised for the post to go out today. I was like, don't worry, it was Ash's fault, it's not your fault. She was like, oh, okay, I thought I'd done something wrong.
I love it. I love it. No, so we're back on. We're back on. But yeah, how are you apart from dying of cold?
No, I just feel shit. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I feel fine. It's just there's no worse than like Keo's obviously away, and he's like, just go lay in bed, and I'm like, how am I just going and laying in bed? I can't just go. Yeah, but you work from home. I'm like, okay, but I still can't lay in bed. I said, what am I doing my LinkedIn live from bed? I don't think that'd be appropriate. And
You've
he's
done that
like,
before,
well,
I think. I think we've done
I
it
have
before.
actually, I have
I was
actually
going to
done that before.
say, not anymore,
But
though. More
but I need
professional
to
now.
actually be in bed. Like when I said I want to go to bed, I don't mean like I just want to lay. I mean I need to
I want to go to
sleep.
sleep. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, like this last week, I've obviously still been doing 75 hard,
Yeah.
and having to do the 90 minutes of exercise is just been like, ugh. But normally, like when I wake up, my alarm goes off at 6. I'm like up and fine. It's been like 20 past, 7:30. I'm like dragging my ass out of bed because
Oh, really?
it's horrible in the morning when you've got a cold or like the doctor thinks I've got bronchitis.
Yeah.
Like you feel a million times worse in the morning, don't you? And then you get
I
up,
always
and I've been
find
jumping up and brushing my
morning,
teeth.
I don't know about you, I find morning, I feel like death. And also, before I go to bed,
Yeah,
it's like
I'm
they
like that.
bookend you. During the day,
Yeah.
I'm fine. And then I'm like, I get into bed and I go, I'm ready to go to sleep now. And then it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, you literally like, you can't
last
breathe.
night I was up about 5 times,
Yeah.
just like coughing and like needing like when you're asleep and you wake yourself up coughing.
Yeah.
So yeah, not been great.
I had to
but
sleep
still.
last Sunday. I slept on my chair. I had just a chair sat upright, and I was just because I couldn't. Whenever I laid down, it was like all of the
Yeah.
snot and stuff, and make you go. I go, and I was like, Freddie's my wife. People don't know that. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just gonna sit here, and I just had headphones in. You know, you like listen to headphones. And I was like, I'm gonna listen to some like random audio book. I think I was listening to Lord of the Rings actually. I was like, I listened to Lord of the Rings until I physically, you know, and you just go. And then I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to pass out. I'm not going to sleep. I'm just going to have to pass out.
No, it's not the best but yeah, we
I
carry
love
on.
it. So, what are we talking about today?
Um Firstly, disclaimer, I've got nothing against anyone called Karen. I've got a lovely auntie called Karen, who's not a Karen at all, but there's no other way to define this episode other than industry Karens, otherwise it'd have been like 3 sentences long trying to
Yeah.
explain it. So please don't start think I'm being horrible to Karens, because I'm not. I like Karens. But yeah, I just wanted to like touch on what I've tried to do recently is I've tried to be a lot more structured because work's getting busier and it's getting a lot more like it just progressively every month gets busier and busier. Where I used to do a lot of, would you say like off the cuff content, like writing, or like I might one day think, right, I'll put a video out, I'll do this. What I've tried to do is bulk record content and put it out on TikTok, and then me and Millie together have been like scheduling it for the week ahead so that we know that, because what happens is when you get too busy, you forget. And me and you both know, and I've went on about it a million times, the main reason why you stay busy is through consistency. So something had to give, because realistically, for me to maintain that level of consistency, I'm going to have to plan it rather than just do it as and when.
Do you know, I've had the exact same feeling there myself, is like with that, is that I'm now planned about 8 weeks in advance.
I freaking am that good, like 4 days.
I know, I'm like 8 weeks.
Content. Have you done it? You've done the scheduled content? Oh, sorry, I've just come to my head there.
But like, I'm with you, because when you say about something had to give, is that as life got busier, bit work got busier. I've always been a big advocate of like, make the content, post it out on the day, and then you're the same, because obviously people work with me for so long. It's like, do it, be straight
like
off
raw,
raw, yeah. But it gets so hard, and it got to the point where like I was like, I can't maintain this. Like I've got to be able to know that if I took a week off for any like what you're having now, it's still coming out. And also, I did notice that, I don't know if you had this yourself, the content also starts to slip, because when you're doing it, what should I talk about like right now? You're like, it ends up being shit. Like, whereas the content when you plan it is like, that's really good. That's the stuff we're talking about this week. It's better, I find.
Well, I think that it depends on the type of content that people do. So you might be the type of person who does only written content, you don't like doing videos, which is a lot easier to do off the cuff.
Yes.
It's a lot easier. Whereas when you're doing videos, it's like my entire business is run through video marketing. So I have to plan in advance. Otherwise, it's because even when I was doing the actual written content off the cuff, my videos were off TikTok, so they were already posted. I'm just posting it on a different platform. So anyway, so I've been doing that for about 6 weeks now. Oh, 8 weeks. 6 weeks. And I've noticed that like we've had probably a drop in interaction from industry. So not in terms of clients, absolutely, like every day still get messages, and I know the content works for like getting business, clients. Yeah. But in terms of interaction with industry, I feel as if it's got quite, I don't want to say negative, because there's like some very positive, but a lot more like,
I've got a better word for it. I think it's a bit salty.
yeah, like as if sort of like, I think obviously, because let's be honest, it's boring to anyone in the industry because it's irrelevant to them. They aren't going to buy off me. So the content's been a hell of a lot more customer facing, because if I'm going to create content, I want it to be valuable to better the business.
Yeah.
But I also want to stay relevant in the industry, because I enjoy working in this industry and want to be a part of it. And I said to you last week, didn't I? Like, I feel as if you can't win. It's either you have to do your content, then you have to do, like, then I do this. Like this, let's be honest, this isn't getting me business. This is
show. The industry. Yeah, this
show's not getting me any business. It's getting me people inquiring about what network I'm at, or if I'm taking on any advisors, or asking me for help.
Like recruitment or industry, as you say.
Yeah.
But,
it's not gaining me anything financially at all. No. But I do it because the reason I wanted to do it from the beginning.
When you can see it as well, when you like look back later on.
And there's no one, like when I started, there was no one outside of my own employers or my own network that I could ask any advice for. And I just think it's nice to be able, like, I do get a lot of messages like that, like just people just starting out, people. But you think, I thought in my head, well, I'm doing my industry related topic once a week, every Wednesday. But anyway, so I need to start doing a bit more, I think maybe.
Well, me and you spoke about that, because that's something I know I fell foul of, and I've started, is when you focus purely on the customer, there's a balance. And by the way, I think this is something to point out, because we've never spoken about it. In fact, I might have to cover you on my podcast to talk about this as well, because it's an interesting thing, is that when you focus on the customer solely, it drives business, you make money and everything's good, but you don't win awards, you don't get asked to speak anywhere, you don't. And then there are people, by the way, and I'm not slagging them off, there's lots of people out there, they're wonderful people, but there's different people out there, and I know you'll know them, where you're like, you're not really doing very well in business, but you're at all these awards and you're winning things and you're speaking. And I think, and it's because it's like two different things.
Completely.
One of them is about, and I said this to someone yesterday, when me and you were chatting about it on WhatsApp, but I was also saying to someone a couple of days ago, I was like, it's the client is different. The client in a podcast, like in a show like this, is when you're trying to win awards, the client is the industry. It is
Yeah.
your peers. And it's a hard one. I think people think that you can do it all. And you can, but you've got to
You
balance it
can, but there's a price to pay for it, and
on
I'm
both
not.
sides, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll lose money if you want to go after industry, but you'll
it's just
gain
like-
clout if you do. It's tough.
It's like, it's what do you want out of it? Like, I know lots of people who are very well known in the industry who are amazing advocates for the product, but they ain't doing a lot of business. And then you've got people like me who are doing a lot of business, known a bit in the industry, but I'm not someone who, I don't know, like, I'm not I don't want to say this because it sounds awful, but like a boffin of the industry, should we say? Like someone who people are like, know the ins and outs of things. Like, I know that, and I've never claimed to be that person. If I don't understand something, I'll go and ask the provider, I'll ask the BDM. Like, I don't sit, my brain doesn't work like that. My strength is speaking.
Yeah.
And you're never going to win with it. So anyone who's trying to do both, just stop. Like, pick which one you want to focus on and tap in and out of the other one. That's what I would say. Like, and to me,
but it shows what you want, isn't it? With like, because there's people I know, and again, like you said, there's no disrespect to them. It's just different. There's somebody I know specifically, and it's not someone that anyone would actually think it would be. It's a randomer that could in the industry of this. But even today, I was on LinkedIn, and he's like speaking at this event, and then and every time I look, he's speaking at different events. But me and him have had a conversation behind closed doors. He's not a client, and he's not really doing anything. His business has become actually just speaking at these events, and he just has a property portfolio that he makes money off of. But so it's about, what do you want? Now, he specifically wants clout, attention, and that's not bad. That's what he wants.
no.
So it makes sense. If that's what you want, then go after. I've just got somebody harassing me right now you've been nominated for 4 awards. I've been nominated for the Mortgage Marketing Awards. I'm not even submitting the application because I don't want it. So it's all because you know what goes with those awards. You've got to do the kissing, not kissing ass, but you've got to, it's time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time, and it's coming back to that again. Like, what do you want? Do you want to be known in the industry, or do you want to be known? Like, my passion from the beginning has been to create awareness.
Yeah,
I'm not creating awareness in the industry. That they're not buying or understanding or learning something new. Some of them are, because they don't know what they're doing. But for new people, it might be beneficial because they don't realise the details. But whenever I work with a BDM, or we do like a catch up on the product, and I ask the questions I ask, you can see they're like, oh, we don't get asked that. So I think, well, I do know what I'm talking about, because otherwise I wouldn't be asking these types of questions.
Yeah.
But I don't need to prove that to everyone in the industry, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's decide which lane you want to be in, and move over to a different lane now and again.
Yeah.
It's not gonna. You can't stay in 2 lanes all the time. You have to do this all the time.
So we're moving on to the industry Karens then, because let's go into that thing, because that's what we were chatting about.
Yeah. Can you hear the building work?
It's quite loud. I can.
Is it?
It's just gone quiet because it's removing your sound.
Is it stopped now? So calm down.
Yeah, we've
Right.
fixed the noise in the background.
So I get recently, I don't know whether it's because I've been doing more content that's been focused to clients, people making comments on my stuff, like, and you just feel like saying, are you for real?
So people commenting, I want to ask you this one, is it comments or is it DMs?
Comments.
Oh, wow.
And it's like,
I didn't know like there was like
no,
comments.
it's like, you're either, like, for me, if you've got no good to say, don't say anything at all. If I've seen someone's content and I thought there was something they shouldn't have said, or something that I thought was a bit risky, I'm not going to write on their content, hi, I don't think you should have said that. It's got absolutely sod all to do with me, firstly, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, you just make yourself look like an absolute...
Yeah, you do. Tool. Yeah.
Yeah. And thirdly, where's your content, please? Because most
they're my
people,
favourites. Yeah.
Yeah. Most people who are creating their own content are aware that it takes a hell of a lot of effort. It takes a hell of a lot of dedication. And yeah, you might say things now and again that's a bit like, ooh, that's a bit risky. But at the end of the day, unless you're working for the FCA or you are my client and you believe I am misleading you, then I really don't care what you think. I'm sorry, but I don't. and there's no need for it. So like I had a comment, I've had a few in the last couple of weeks, and the only thing I can think of is that I am putting a lot more customer focused content out, that, and obviously with, it's like things like people say, like if I talk about critical illness cover, I've had a couple of comments like, well, actually under the ABI definition, blah, blah. Right, okay. I am not giving Fred Smith his insurance policy on this recording. And I'm not saying to Fred Smith, hiya, Fred Smith. This is an example of when Fred Smith was covered and Fred Smith got this and this with this provider and they said this. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to create a content that makes insurance understandable. If you think that me explaining an ABI definition to a client on a content is going to create awareness, you're a fool. And that's why you're not creating content yourself, because you'd be boring the life out of everyone, right? There's a reason why when you're on a video, do people think that when clients message me and say, can you help me? I then don't go through more detail with them. That I just say, did you see my video? Yeah, I seen your video. Fine, fabulous. Age, smoking status. There you go. £50 a month, you sorted. Obviously, when I speak to clients, I go through in a hell of a lot more detail than 95% of advisors I may add, just for the record, Karens. I go through every provider. I go through every bit of detail. I go through underwriting. I don't just go straight to one provider and do an application and hope for the best. I bring every provider first and go to the client and say, right, based on this medical, based on this height and weight, this is the best provider for you. And then I go through the difference of this client's 50% more expensive than this one. However, this one will pay out on this definition and this one won't. I'm a professional. However, understand when creating content that being a professional is not understandable to a client who knows absolutely sod all about insurance. You've got to be the expert. You've got to be able to be the influencer. You've got to be able to be the creator. And you can't do all three of those roles in a 60-second video. It's impossible. So pick which one you want to be. So if you want to be the expert, sorry, I need to get this off. If you want to be the expert who goes on about ABI definitions, then that's what you should do. Every single content you make should be around the fact that you are the professional with the thesaurus of definitions, and that's what your role is. Mine isn't. But that doesn't mean you think, I'm just going to read out one of these comments. It really pissed me off. I'm just going to tell them to stop that one sec.
Back.
No, I'm getting my patio done. It's not ideal right now.
So we keep pausing it, by the way. We just keep dropping it. I've got a little button that now allows me to stop.
Yeah, because they're doing the patio outside. They didn't tell me. You have to be very careful with financial promotion around this product. Your mass marketing saying something will pay out for cancer without the ABI or the FCA oral disclosure.
Oh, I'm trying to find the best one. That's the right fitting place for that specific thing.
What?
So okay. I had this discussion about you, funnily enough, before this, but I've had this discussion about you with a specific person and also with my dad. Now, to give people context to this, because people go, well, is that his dad? So like my dad, for people who listen to this, was head of compliance and training for Connells, head of compliance and training for Hart Just Mortgages at the time, and was for like well over 2 decades. Like his job was to go direct with the FCA, and he was one of the people that took Hart pretty much through to DA and then through transition it over into a network. So his what he doesn't know about compliance, and still to this day is not thing. And me and him, I literally was talking about this because one of our friends had this and said something about you. Not in a negative way. They were nice. They like you, but they were like, well, exactly that thing. It was about global treatment, I think. And they said something about global treatment. And they were like, well, technically she's wrong there because she hasn't said that it could have been this. I can't remember what it was. We were all sat around. My dad went to him with us. He was like, that video is not advice. He was like, she has not given advice. It is not directed to any specific individual. And he said, until an IDD, a disclosure document, has been given, at which point the advice would be given, then that doesn't matter. That's just information. He was like, and he said, and I would tell you now, somebody who works directly with compliance and has done for like his entire career, was like, I would not deem that as bad. He said, you will have people who will. He said, but I don't see it as that. And then he turned to the person and said, how much money did you make last month? And he said, well, Carla made X amount because I told what you'd done. And he was like, so I think that you need to maybe shut up until you're at that point, at which point you can then comment on what people are doing. And I think that sums up exactly how I feel about your situation with this, probably how you feel about your situation with this. But that was from somebody whose entire career was based on it for the two of the largest companies in the country. So when Karen or John Smith thinks that they know something because they've now decided to do consumer duty, they don't. They've read something, but they're not looking at it in a holistic manner. And also, it's none of their fucking business. And it really goes down to that. And I do think there are so many people who do this, and it bugs me with you because I get people it comes up in discovery calls. Sometimes it'll come in discovery and they go, well, Carl is saying this, you can't say that. And I'm like, it's not my job to decide what you can or cannot say. I will have decisions on what I think you can and cannot say for myself.
Yeah.
But it's not my job to decide what you can and cannot say. It is between you and your network. And if your network has no problem with what you say, then everyone else needs to piss off. And I really think it just comes down to that.
I know. But it's like, I get that there'd be some people who genuinely are just like that. And they're like, well, and that's just one of the comments. Like I'd get them probably on everyone. Someone saying, well, that definition's not correct. I'm like,
I think it makes them think that you can I think there's an element of it as well of like trying to, it's the first one that I've had with that because this is my soapbox as well with this and I get this. So the first one you have is that people, which is the one I don't like, is people think that they're trying to kind of like highlight where you're wrong so they can potentially steal business from it. That's where I think.
Yeah, or pull, what it makes me feel like, I'll be honest to anyone who wants to try and do it, it makes me feel like shit. You look at it and you think, what? Why? Like, what are you getting out of that? Like, I'd understand if I was coming on and saying, doesn't matter what your medical is, I can get you cancer cover.
Yeah.
I do not say that. If I was coming on saying, it doesn't matter what your child's been diagnosed with, your child can get paid out for global treatment. I'm not saying that. No. I'm giving an overview of a product that's so complicated. And the reason, my belief is, the reason why so many people are uninsured correctly in the UK is through lack of awareness of the product. Now, you try and explain that product using ABI definitions, reading terms and conditions from 15 different providers, or you give them an overview, and then when they come in here and they speak to you, you say, right, this is what you can have, and then you do your job as a professional.
Yeah.
Right. If you think that I'm doing my job wrong, I want to see what you're doing. That's that's what I want, because it's just an insult sometimes. A
lot of the time as well, and this is why I think this is the second one of that, saying like and I think this is the biggest one I see. The first one is people just trying to nick business, and I think what you're saying there, the second one, which is more common than not, and I think you probably find what this one is people's morals. And what I mean by this is I've had people who say, well, it's not ethical or it's not this. And I'm like, well, all of this stuff is subjective, meaning that you've decided as the police of LinkedIn that you've decided that Carla's thing is unethical. But that's not and do you know where I know this? Because it got, well, I know a lot, but it got on my nerves when I was saying to everyone, you need to do interest-only mortgages. Just put this on record on this. I told everyone to talk about interest-only mortgages a year ago. A year ago, I was saying, because you know how long content takes to work, and I was saying interest-only mortgages is where this is going. It's inevitably going to go that way. That's where it's going to go. And I got very similar comments to you when I did videos like that and posts like that. People would go, it's unethical to do this. It's wrong to do this. You shouldn't be talking about interest-only. It's not good for the customer. And I kept saying to people, it's not about that. First of all, I don't give a shit. They're not my customer. You're my customer. But secondly, you need to take your ethics out of it and what you believe and actually start looking at where the market is going. Lo and behold,
and making customers aware. The whole point,
that's what it is. Making customers aware there's an option, and then lo and behold, where are we now? Well, lo and behold, where are we now? Where interest-only mortgages are starting to rise up, and everybody who would have listened to me, which is none of them did, would have gone, do you know what? You online are the only person talking about this. You would have cleaned up, but instead our higher kind of, which is exactly what you're getting here, is that if these people aren't getting business, it's not about being unethical. It's about removing your own personal opinion of something and actually, as you said, just educating. So if you say to somebody, there's a product that could potentially help you, if you're in this situation, you need to speak to me about it, that's fine. You don't have to go, but there is
Or,
because of the
or
FCA.
not even speak to me. Like
Speak
it's
to
bizarre.
someone.
Do people think that like every single person who listens to my video messages me and gets covered there and then? I'm not at a boot sale. I'm not stood selling oranges saying roll up, get signed up with me. That's not how it works. It takes people. I get messages all the time saying, I've been watching your videos for months. I've been following you for a year. Loads of people have recommended you.
Yeah.
Now and again, you might get a person saying, I've just seen your video. Very rarely.
Very
though.
rare.
Very rarely.
And they're also not good clients when they're like that,
No,
are they? They're,
so
they're
it's
the
like-
worst. When they're like, can you explain what you do? You're like,
Yeah, like-
well, actually, the best ones are the ones who just go, I've watched you for a year. Help me.
I've watched you for ages. It's always that. Now, if people think that what I do is sign people up saying, this is what I've just been speaking about and this is what you're getting, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Keep your opinions to yourself because it really isn't relevant to what I do. I am
Also,
a
turn that
professional.
post into a post. I mean, that's the other thing I
Yeah.
love with that. Comment. If you want to, if you've just said that, why don't you just make? This is the thing I don't
Do it your
like,
own, do it yourself.
is Make a video arguing against what you've just seen. Like that's something that we do all the time. I've said that to people like Matt Chapman, people like yourself. You know, I'll go, whatever you guys, not YouTube, I mean individually. You know, I was like, if you see something that someone says that you disagree with, make a video. Don't call them out. Make a video about your specific opinion on that thing. So if you want to make a post on social media to the industry, because it'll push your industry clout, saying there are people who are making content and saying this stuff. That, by the way, I don't think it's a good thing, but I think it's a much better thing than jumping
Yeah.
on someone's comments.
But it's like when I started saying about pregnancy cover, I started marketing as saying pregnancy insurance because there's certain providers who cover pregnancy related conditions. So therefore, to make it understandable to a client, it's pregnancy
pregnancy, yeah.
insurance. Zurich have just launched last month. Bear in mind, I've been doing this for 18 months doing pregnancy. PEC, pregnancy and early childhood related add-on insurance, calling it pregnancy insurance. It's all right for them. But when I was doing it, I was getting the messages I was getting off other advisors saying that's false advertisement. It's not pregnancy insurance. Well, it is because it states that
it's
can cover the
ensuring,
baby
yeah.
from 24 weeks pregnant being the operative word. So
Yeah.
it's pregnancy insurance. Baby dies after 24 weeks, they're getting paid out.
Yeah.
That you don't like.
Or you can like package it in your own way. So you can call it in your own way. It's a pregnancy cover.
Yeah.
And in that pregnancy cover, that cocktail looks like this. This is what we
this
as a
is what it
protection parent
means.
call pregnancy cover, which
Yeah.
is, and then you're reading them what the actual policy is. It's upgraded children's
Exactly.
critical illness. You're not saying this is pregnancy cover.
Yeah.
You're saying this is the package that we would call I used to do this when I worked with lots of CrossFitters when I was doing insurance, and I would call it CrossFit cover. And they would have fracture cover. They would have
covered, yeah.
you know, fracture cover and what's it called, IP. And I'd say you need
Yeah.
IP, fracture cover, and some kick, but you need IP and fracture cover. And I would call that oftentimes because it was 2 CrossFit gyms. I'd say this is what I would call my CrossFit cover package because you need it. I mean, a lot of them are now being discontinued. You can't get them in CrossFit and stuff like that now. But shows how long ago I was an advisor. But that is exactly the same thing. And then those people can't understand marketing.
No, I can't understand marketing and just want to drag you down. It's just like, it's quite insulting that you think that, like, one, it's not, doesn't make sense. Like, I didn't even respond to him. I thought, what do you want me to say to that? Oh, sorry, I never mentioned the ABI definition of every single critical illness under every single provider listed
On the
my
planet.
like, what is wrong with you? So, yeah, just
Don't be a
try and
Karen.
you don't want to be a Karen, just be nice.
Yeah. If you got, what's that? I think love that thing. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say
Yeah,
anything.
parting words are, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, or create your own content and do something positive with your feelings.
Yeah.